So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Tzayelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end period Shiahu the prophet. We find in the 61st chapter, where then the prophet states the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. Also the first recording of the spring feast via Metchiahu the Levite. We find then the 24th chapter, a layer of the time of reduction from 7032. We are in 71T. So then, understanding these times where then politics are absolutely ridiculous, we find then nations preparing themselves and also transitioning themselves so then they can understand the freighters of the earth then are going to be in charge. The Messiah very plainly he saw while he was then tabernacling with Yohanan in the first holy city. Then he explained obviously then the freighters, because the first contact with Ibrahim via his inheritance, first son Ishmael, started out as then a freighting company. How do we know this for sure? Because the restoration related with the two sticks of Ezekiel the 37th chapter relates with the authority. If you study the Eastern culture, the stick means authority. So then when you read the holy instructions, you must understand also the holy language in Hebrew. The stick of the time was then a symbol of authority. As far as the modern ways of authority is not the same as in the past. So then by reading then the holy instructions, we find the 37th chapter where then those two sticks are then being united. Understandably, Ibrahim had a son Ishmael, and he started his freight company or caravan company. The first example was then Joseph. When he was sold into slavery, he ended up then in Egypt, and then obviously he then became a favor in the palace of Pharaoh. But then let's understand the influence of the freighters as we then study the holy instructions. Some time ago there were those two farts over there in Boston, and then one of those scoundrels died, the other is in bad shape. And then we find the government trying again to become heroes. We understand the U.S. government is absolutely incompetent. There is no question regarding the competency of this government. They have proven themselves unable to do their tasks. Then shortly after, because there is not much going on in politics, they are scoundrels, then they team up with the Canadian government and came up with this lie of the train then being linked up with Al-qaeda. They are absolutely ridiculous. They are trying to make themselves important and try to mesmerize the people, and they want to do the same junk they used to do in the past. Bad news. The instructions are then related with the returning of the holy cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries, and the freighters of the earth are going to be in charge, liking it or not. And people are no longer stupid, because responsible people, they are watching the news very closely. And from some 10 to 20 days prior of those two farts over there in Boston, there was absolutely nothing going on in our politics. The same old people, junkie, enjoying each other's incompetence and not having truly a step forward or a target or an aim in the entire government. But they do have set aside the Ozarks, so they understand the monetary system is going to ruin. But then to make up time for it and try to kind of turn around or do something they can put them back on the front line, then they team up with the Canadian government. Absolutely a lie from the worst kind you can ever imagine. A person watching the news can easily understand this crap authority of the government does not deceive the people anymore. People know it's a lie. So then, what causes then the Canadian government to scandalize themselves so badly? No, they are from the Crown. They are one of those realms of Great Britain. However, the services of the Canadian freight is absolutely a piece of junk. So then, understandably, governments, they are trying to take over power, though they understand they don't have any more power. The time of scandalization was from 1009 to 2009. That was it. We've entered the time of the dragon, where the precision is then obviously coming from the east. And then the west is not mentioned in the 11th chapter of Daniel. And as you can observe then the news, there is absolutely nothing going on in politics. We don't hear anymore as far as the extraction of petroleum in Alaska. We don't find any more understandings of the industry as we used to hear in the past. The government has made blunt mistakes, given so much money to alternatives form of energy. Then the solar companies over there went bankrupt. How many more evidence could we receive to understand that this government is incompetent? Then they find the security people making a feast out of these two farts over there in Boston to make sure, they have a name or something. It is absolutely ridiculous. You can observe it from afar. They are dealing with a person barely 20 years old. He used the crudest form of bomb. It wasn't a boat. And then you'll find shortly after then the Canadian government coming forward, all because we have thwarted then this train with these people. We don't have names, we don't have situations, and they are liars. So they are trying to take the authority of the Messiah during this time, because the Messiah said very precisely, in the future, governments can understand very plainly the freighters are in charge. And there was another report that came out, speaking of the economy of the country. It is not recuperating, jobs are not improving, and the government is expanding itself. So they are doing absolutely contrary as what then the Messiah would give them some hints of what they should do. Answers were already given, and as far as mixing up with the Canadians, forget it. People understand it was a lie. And the ridiculous face of the, what was it, TSA over there, secretary or whatever she is, then shows up with the square face and a computer trying to take the credit for a junky lie. The people understand there is absolutely no link with it. So these people are liars and scoundrels, and they understand that their governments are on the line. So then the Messiah said very precisely, during the time of the restoration, prior to the starting of the autumn feast, then the freighters of the earth, and then the returning of the holy cities. So then the next step is understanding then those who were from the set apart, and they are enlightened, should be gathering over there in northern Sudan and starting up a holy city. Those are the instructions from the prophet. Understandably then we find this government trying to take over authority over the world. Once again, the problem is there is no more time for it. Then these scoundrels went to China over there, and they were mesmerized by the competency of China. Then these scoundrels, they returned, and then you find money printing festival. But then Japan got in the midst of it, Australia got in the midst of it, unfortunately. Even New Zealand for some time was in the midst of it, but then the Prime Minister over there, he kind of lost track over there because people are not believing what he's saying. So the same old junkies of the past, they are not going to get the credit. More so because people understand they have built a building over there in the Ozarks, 72,000 squares, away from the knowledge of the people. And there is a stealing of the money from the government via a private company, the Overwatch Systems, where then if investigators would investigate what goes on over there, they would find stolen money from the government. But then the place over there was then registered as a family house or a family residence. So the American people is not going to believe anymore what this junky government states. It used to be very competent. And they find themselves absolutely stupid scoundrels. Watch the news, American Online for instance, in the column of politics. There is absolutely nothing going on. Nothing. Pointing fingers at each other because this not doing his job or not doing her job and some other GOP kind of a crap. Only junk. Now, the Messiah expects his people to speak the truth. Not only this, but reading then the 11th chapter of Daniel, the West is not included in the plan. That's why then the government understandably had built over there the Ozarks. But the problem is they have nothing to do over there. How are they going to manage a system then broken? But then they try to be the heroes of the situation, by inventing this Canadian crap over there. But then the person over there talking, there was a lady over there, what it was, last night, a lady and a guy spoke. The guy was so ridiculous. He went forward and said, all our aim was always to protect the people of the railroad and such. No, duh. That's what you are hired for. He already gave the answer that he was lying. When you have a situation of a train then being targeted, you don't say all our aim was always to protect. Oh, duh, that's why you are hired. So they are trying to come up with lies and trying to be showing themselves very competent. Then they are being scoundrels, ridiculous, not only these, but liars. So if our president doesn't know how to do the job, he should then, give up the position. Give it to somebody else. Somebody with the industry background. Then he has a plan of giving more than 100 6 digits then to the Syrian rebels over there, destroying our economy even further. Our president is becoming a point of, he's being ridiculous. He doesn't understand how to revive our economy. So rather than leaning up our government, then he's expanding the government. Rather than being economical, then he gives more money to somebody else, where we should then practicing our own economy and providing more jobs. It shows the government is desperate. They don't know what they are doing anymore. But they want to show themselves as big shots. Ended up this person over there from the Canadian government being absolutely ridiculous. All because we have found this and that and the other. Oh, but then our aim was always to protect the people. No, duh. Why do you have to say this? You gave the answer. Liar. If you are hired to protect the people, then you make yourself important. Gives the answer. So this Canadian crap over there was made up crap. And the people of America, unfortunately, sometimes they don't study, they don't want to get involved, but then the Ozarks is there. So why don't then the police investigate then the money flowing through these Overwatch systems? They're going to find government's money in the building over there in the Ozarks. You know what this means? Stealing. Knowing that the president, he is not legal to be president because his birth certificate is false. So don't try to walk around as big shot, and blah blah blah. People don't believe anymore. We've got 36 months to get our economy lining up with the freighters. Because the system of the East is coming very strongly. People are going to download the system in their computers, and the government won't be able to read the funding. If there is not lining up with the freighters so they can charge tax via freighting, then the government is done. The Balian system is not going to take over. Because the Messiah already said, the freighters of the earth are in charge, because then Ishmael, or then the Ishmaelites, are taking over even further. Does you understand then the first stick and the second stick? So this TSA representative over there, she is absolutely ridiculous. She got herself mixed up with these scoundrels, and then Canadian government midst of it, liars. Liars of the worst kind. You know who gave the answer? Was the second person over there talking. Oh, because we got this to order, because we found some evidence and names, but then our job was always to protect. Duh. Stupid. Gave the answer. Liar. People are watching very closely every word. And if the American people, they were serious, we would have the police over there investigating Overwatch system, and then the Ozarks building. There is federal money over there being washed through somebody else's company for the disguise of becoming then a standby building. Why is the police not doing their job? Because they are involved in scoundrels, as the government is. But then they want to be heroes. Then they charge a person, a boy, he was nearly a boy, not even 20 years old, was barely a formed man and got a high-spirited, then got a pen. Then they treated him as a person that would use a nuclear weapon. The discrepancy of judgment of the government is out of balance, because the government is absolutely at no aim. This U.S. government is ridiculously stupid and incompetent. Not unkind, but ridiculously stupid and incompetent. The president has shown he does not know how to do the job. He does not have a firm wrist to say, we got to lean up our government and get rid of our agencies. Whatsoever can be turned over to the private sector, do it and get rid of it. And extracting then petroleum, natural gas, and get our industry going, but not giving anymore so many 6 digits to junky companies. He has shown himself incompetent, unfortunately. And he became a kid with an unlimited credit card in his pocket. Incompetent. Understandably, he was given 40 years to calm down the market, but he is not revitalizing it. When you have the second term a chance of revitalizing, he's not doing what he should be doing. He had taken 40 years at least to level the situation, making it predictable. Then you have to work in leaning up the government and then encouraging more trade. And it starts with electricity. Then he's interested with the rebels over there of Syria. Oh, they gave him more than 106 digits to them. Incompetent. What else can we say? And then he places the head over there of the TSA as a piece of junk of a department anyway. Abusive people. Then they make up this link with the Canadian government, and then the person over there already gave the answer. It was a lie. You know, when a person is trying to be important, always at some point in the conversation they give the answer. They try to portray themselves as heroes of a situation non-existent. Even the lady over there, she was a blunt liar. Then we find, oh, Monday they are coming up with a list of names and the search and links. Where is it? Our president does not know how to do the job. And I vote for him. I thought after 40 years of leveling at least, understanding what goes on in the market, then he gets the second term and he's doing nothing. He's walking around. Then because of those two farts over there in Boston, that was nothing. But then they amplify the situation to become a novel because they want to be heroes. Because of two tiny bombs? What about our economy? Isn't that more important? What he's trying to do? Threaten people because he has the switch over there that can activate a bomb? It's not the time for it. We've got roughly 20 years ahead yet. Read the instructions. No, being a pro-liar as he is because he was not born in the U.S. He was born in Kenya. So if he tries to become big shot, let's make sure he shows the original birth certificate or then drop the position. The best course of action, being humble and working our economy, is the least he can do. Because he does not deserve the position. He's not an American. What is he thinking? Is he going to become some sort of a pharaoh, the next pharaoh? Read the instructions. The West is not even mentioned in Daniel the 11th chapter. What is he thinking? Africa is going to become the next capital of the world? No, they are the third kingdom, the southern kingdom. The main authority of those who are saying so is going to be China and the Soviet Union. Read the instructions. But then, because he's so unique, then he wants to finish up the Ozarks, stealing our money via the Overwatch systems. And the police doesn't do a damn thing. Incompetent as the government is. They're only trying to find some sort of a reason to become heroes. Ridiculously scoundrel. Absolutely scoundrels. This country has no more aim. This country has no more target. And the Messiah is already giving the answer. The Messiah said the freighters of the earth are going to be in charge in the future. The obvious is making a deal with the freighter companies of this country, lining up our taxation with the coming of the parcels. But then the government built the Ozarks with 12 gates. You know where 12 gates comes from? As if they were preparing a city of themselves. Liars, scoundrels, and stupid. Because it doesn't exist. Very surprising then the TSA, the representative over there, the department then shows up with a face ugly as heck, tried to come up, being a hero. He's the junkiest department I ever worked for. They are abusers. They don't control the overtime. They rip the country apart. And then linking up with the Canadians? Come on. They don't even know how to answer the questions. The second scoundrel over there from the Canadians already gave the answer. They want to be heroes of a non-existent situation. And where are the jobs? And then the economical report was stating the person over there that was coming up with the report is the same person that did reported during the 2008 house bust or the global crisis. He's the same person. And his opinion was this president won't finish the second term. No, duh. He's absolutely right. Our president is incompetent. Very nice guy, but, a kid with a credit card and no limit. Walks around, throwing money around. He doesn't know how to revitalize the economy. He's not from industry background. He was then a city organizer and some sort of a CIA agent. And he thinks himself then maybe should be the next pharaoh of some sort. And Africa is a bust-up continent. Requires the very tabernacling of the Holy Creator over there in the north, then for that damn place to be organized. Otherwise it doesn't. I don't care if this president or the combination of the words president to work in Africa, it won't work. Requires the Holy Tabernacling of the Creator in the northern side of Africa, so then it works. Truly hope this president don't get shot. Because thus far, when he does not do what is obvious, then he becomes abusive. Spending money beyond the limit in areas where we should not be given money, such as Syria, then becomes criminal. But then this government is so desperate to become heroes of the moment, then they were desensitized of the responsibilities of understanding if you spend more than you should, you become a criminal during the times of crisis. No, but the U.S., is so grander, so above any kind of a law. Ended up being stupid. He has proven he does not know how to do the job. Give up the position, give it to somebody else. But don't give it to the vice president, because his hotel there in Paris was very expensive. $585,000 for one night. We want a cheaper person. Or I should say inexpensive. Or more conscientious. No wonder the U.S. someday is going to release the atomic bomb and is going to destroy this planet. Because it's incompetent. But then, since the time has not come yet, let's understand, Africa only works when tabernacling is then activated. You can combine our president, Mr. Putin, Mr. Xi, every president you can think of. Put them together, they won't be able to fix Africa. The Creator is saying it takes His holy tabernacling over there, then it works. And He's going to show how to do the job. But thus far, the presidents are incompetent. Get used to it.